we're going to pick this up. We're going to kind of gone through some of this. Make sure I don't do anything horrible here. Okay, we're going to be on page Taf Reish Nun Zayin. And we're going to be at the bottom here where it says Eichah Yashva Badad. It's going to go through a few series of these and see what I can do with it, what we can do with it. Down at the very bottom of the page, starting with the Mata B'Devash, it says like this: O Masha Kosav Eichel Yashva Badad. We say this many times. Rebbe Chanina Rabanim Pasche Kwa Ba'adam Harishon, that this pasuk Eichel Yashva Badad. So I'm alone. I'm dwelling alone. This is referring, he says, to Adam Kadmon. He said Adam Harishon. Paschal the Farish as Pasuki Eicho Be'inyane Adam Harishon, he says. And this is al the pasuk V'yikach Hashem Elokim es Adam v'yanichechu began Eden v'gomer, and he placed them in the Garden of Eden, etc. 1 second. All right. That's what was that in the pasuk. So it says, he said, Ki Masha Kosa V'yikach. So it says he took him. So he said, what did he take him with? He said, B'koach, the strength, he says, of here, Ezemida Lokhu Lagan Eden. What is the meter by which he brought him into God Eden? The Das as Merkavto, in order to understand the chariot, that is the way that the lights are coming from up above down below. Rebbe Chanina Amar L'Kochel B'Devarim. So when he took him, so the meaning took him goes on the idea of he spoke to him. The kind of B'Koch HaMalchus HaNik was Devarim. So he says he drew him. This is interesting. I don't know where this goes, this idea. But he said, L'Kochel B'Devarim, the kind of B'Koch HaMalchus HaNik for Devarim is that the female aspect drew him. That's what he's saying, I think. Kamada Atam Commotion Emma B'Kach as Ahron. Take Aaron. Pirish B'Devarim B'Gam Shama Gavana B'Koch HaMalchus. So also this idea too. I just don't really know this idea. We understand that Malchus is Lashon Dibur. So, and a Dibur is like the final product, so to speak, is where everything emanates from the Malchus Peh. But that's what he's saying. He says that this is what draws Adam Harishon. The Rabanim Amrech L'Kochel B'Ruach, but the Rabanim says that they took him with a Ruach, that it was taken and brought to Gan Eden. He says that this Gan Eden, he said they did it with a Ruach. The Haidach of B'Koach Zer Anpin and Nikra Ruach. Now he's contrasting Malchus to and Zer Anpin in relationship to relating to Adam Harishon. Kamadaat Amr Commotion Amberush B'nei and Nevihim Amr of the Chalisha. They said to Liyum Hayom Hashem Lokeach Es Adonecha Me'al Roshecha. That particular quote. That quote says is that I took those who control you off from above your head. Because of Achar Kach V'Al Eliyahu B'Sa'ara, that he went up. Therefore, after that, in a blasting wind or in a wind B'Sa'ara Shemayim. I guess it sounds like a storm wind. Perish Rachi Beruach Sa'ara. Rachi says he wants to say he was taken with this Ruach. So what is this? This is trying to contrast Eliyahu and the word Ruach. Now, there's a lot of difference between just the Ruach of Zer Anpin and Ruach Sa'ara, which is Lashon Gevurah. So that's where he went. So Umasha Kosavi Anichechu Began Eden, and what it writes over there that they took him into Gan Eden. Shuhu So the Malchus. Okay, they're going this way then. Gan Eden is Malchus, is the okay. Kedei Lichiyos Lo Menucho the Das V'Lachakir HaChochba V'Chatayra, and he did this in order so that he brought him into Malchus. So Malchus, let's say. So he's talking about the Malchus of Etzilus. He brought him to a place of the Malchus of Etzilus to say, or there was a Shefa there, the Haki the Chochma v'Torah, Ki Sod Or HaTorah Ku B'Tiferes, And then through Tiferes is how Chochmah, or the Tipa, let's say, so to speak, or the higher level of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu coming inside, would be generated there. The Amar Rebbe Chaninoi, HaTorah limda Kodesh Baruch Hu la'Adam Harishon. So the Torah was taught to Adam Harishon. Hadol b'chsev v'zecher shekasev oz rov histakal HaKodesh Baruch Hu. But Torah, Hashem, which we've heard before, is that Hashem looked into the Torah. V'yisapro hechino v'gam chokra v'achar kach. So he says that he prepared him, hechino v'gam chokra, and also investigated him or got examined him. V'achar kach v'yom l'adam. So he got involved with it with the man. Hein Yirach Hashem Hi Chochmah. Hein Yiras Hashem. So he said, I want you to know this, that Yiras Hashem is Chochmah. Pirish, Yiras Hashem Hi Chochmas HaTorah is the Chochmah which is in the Torah, that runs through the Torah. What he said, the way I understood it, was that the Torah is disseminated through Zer Anpin. And the Yirah, and that Chochmah is actually what Zer Anpin wants to deliver. And so he said, Pirish, Yiras Hashem Hi Chochmas HaTorah, Ki Ein Chochma Yafa B'Li Yirah, because Chochma doesn't do any good if there's no fear of God. V'sur Me'ra Bina. So then he says another idea. So that's Chochma. Chochma is Yirah. He said, V'sur Me'ra, but turning away from evil is Bina. So what did he understand here? Pirish Sod Sur Me'ra, that phrase, Hi Hachana El Bina, is really the preparation from Bina to know where Ra is that you can understand from Chochmah, because it's not in the line of Chochmah. And instead, that it prepares you for Bina, which to accept that have to be able to turn away from evil. Shehi Havanas Davar Metoch Davar, and he says, and this is understanding of Bina. This is Bina understanding. He understands what? He understands the difference between one thing and the next. In other words, to be able to distinguish what is bad. That's what the Torah wants to tell you. But it's only Lomashal Kodesh Baruch Hu. Leave it as a Torah la'Adam Harishon. He told us that Harishon until he became more physical right in front of him, in his presence. So let's read it again one more time. Shal Kodesh Baruch Hu limid as a Torah la'Adam, and as he's doing this, he's saying that the Torah really is he wants to say this is the middle line, which the middle line brings Chochmah. Chochmah comes into the Sur Me'ra, which is Bina, the understanding one thing from another. And he says, so he says, and this is all, as he is doing this, Adam Harishon is becoming more physical. So they were praising the Fanab in front of him, in his presence, I guess, as he walked or as he went forward. So because of this, they're able to feed from the shefa that comes through him. Now, I'm not sure what he meant, but and that is the malachim he's talking about. So he is actually he is the cause. He's down below the malachim. He's down below them, and they're bringing shefa into him as a result of what he's doing. They're bringing shefa to the malachim. But what happened is that the other side saw this. So he came down into the world. So he says, like he's a shadow over the serpent. Hatzael hu hasamach mem. V'hanachash hu sod haplonis shehi hanukva shalo. So he says what? V'hanachash hu haplonis, Hatzael is the samach mem, and there's an aspect of the samach mem which is the enticer, the libidinal enticer of mankind. So you see then it appears the nachash, and he has this shadow along with him. So in other words, the shadow was like something is concealed, something in the darkness. which can spring out and really trap a man. Because actually the operant part, this real strength of the Samach men, is this sail, which he has said is this Polonis. And that's really where the strength, this ability to be able to seduce something that you can't see right away, but it's very powerful. So he says, the Nachash came by the woman. Because she has a limited amount of das. So at this point, at any rate, so she has a limited amount of das, and so therefore it makes it difficult for ultimately for, let's say, to reach to her malchus, from her das down to her malchus, to deliver all the shefa that's needed to be able to havchin and make sure that she's not that she is sur raw, but she doesn't have all of those faculties. So this teaches you what? He says that a woman goes bad, goes off the derech. She's never seduced. Another woman can get a woman off the derech more than anybody else. Because the sin is a female aspect. And she is the female counterpart of the Samach men. So that he said to the woman, even though Ki Omer Elokim, we said the name Elokim, Miyad Pasak Ba'af. Immediately he began with anger. Now I'm not sure what this means, but he said Ki Omer Elokim. When did he say Omer Elokim? Shehu Lashon Kas V'roges. It was supposed to say V'chara Af Hashem. So I guess when we have all these Elokims, the Elokim is a Lashon Af. So he says like the Mashma, that the Bechila, the Varov Shal Adam Niker Mihu Kach, Mihu. So the beginning of the man, we recognize who he is. Kachu Anachash Pasak Ba'ach. So here we see his Anachash began with his relationship with the man in anger. The Hodia Mihu, in order to let him know how difficult, how bad he is. Ratzon Allah, because Bezem, in this way, Shehiskil b'midas af, that he began with words of anger, of din. Gila shuhu haklipa shebemene b'hakas, let you know that this samach mem is the klipa that brings the kas. K'dei lahodia b'dechidas devara mihi, in order to let you know, let man know right away who he is. K'dei she'im chava. Lo sirtza l'kabel lishmoras bituya. If Chava was not going to be able to be seduced, az miyad tisrachek b'manu, she would have left her alone. Kamosha Kosav Tikrov al Pesach Beso, that she came near to her house, to the door of her house. I'm not sure what that last part, how that supported that idea, but let's go on. Now he has a little interlude here in order to introduce, and he says, Lahavin is a maimer of a bucha benakdim masha kasav ramak. Now the ramak can be difficult to understand. He ain't salver shechababina lo taskim b'movis because of dadim. Now I see this word, I looked at the word when I saw it, and I was thinking, what does it mean? So I'm sticking with that, because I read a little further down. Bifnei shehi rachamim begimel makomos, because actually the Dabina is really rachamim in three different mikoros, in three of different her roots. Vein din elam b'tzad gevura shebacha levada. The zeh chata mahashpa'asach of the gevura al tzad. I think I read it wrong. It does tita. I misread it. She inclines mahashpa'asa megavura al sad hachesed. So he mata mahashpa'asa, she tilts her shefa megavura al sad hachesed. Normally from gavura would go to the side of chesed because she's 3/4 chesed. Mishnechem the tzad Tiferes and Malchus, and for the two, which refers to Tiferes and Malchus, which is the middle line. L'chein Savavo Osius Vav and Tov. So this is hard to understand. So therefore, in this way, she's able to surround or go around the letters, the Vav and the Tov. And she's able to take those letters and make them surround the letter Mem. Something like that. Mikal Bechino Secha, in all of her different ways. Kadesh lo Yihya El Habina Shum Sad Lintos V'Lahashpia Rachmim, so that Bina would be inclined to the left and not to pour out Rachmim. El Hakol B'Din Chazak, but everything should be in a very powerful din. The Hainu, so that didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm going to go on. The Hainu Mizrach Ma'arab Tzfon Darom. Those are the four sides. Again, like Darom, for example, is Chesed, and Tzfon is Gevura. So then we go to the other sides. So he's trying to say here, and I didn't really understand his explanation that well, that these letters are independent and they're drawn together. And the way that they're drawn together is in this concept of mavis. There were four different bad things that happened in this chet of Adam Harishon. Shagarmo Daled Pamim Aleph. Again, Aleph Vatira. Aleph means number one. In the word Vatira. Base Hosiva Lachatos Vatikach. So the second one is it continues the lachto, the sin, the tikach, and then he said the word tichach appears. So he wants to say, I guess these are vavs, I'm not sure. Gimel, hosifa lachto v'ta'achel, he continued the sin and he ate it. Dalid, v'hosifa lachto v'yosef, but he sinned more. V'titen, and she gave it to him. Shehechtia as Adam, that she caused him to go off the path of the sin. Miyad his order the Mavis, and then in this way, Mavis, actually death itself, was conquered for the four different sides. So now he says like this, that's supposed to give us an idea, which I really didn't follow him that well. Notel Simon. So he took a sign. Zecha nachash lokach lo simin. He took for himself a sign. The haina as os mem shehi bebina. Now this offhand, when I read it, it's just really hard to understand how mem, which is the number 40, refers to bina. But I think he's going to explain it, why mem goes with bina. Because I think actually we might have seen this in the Sifra Tzniuta recently. Because he wanted to draw this, and he wanted the Bina actually should deliver the din. She should agree with the din. He lo siman. So this letter became was for him. It was a sign. So the Samach Mem saw whether or not she's going to take what he says, accept it. O im lo takabel. So then, I'm not sure what that means. So he says, he pulled her, and he enticed her with her words, until she opened. That is, Chava opened up, ba'os mem with the letter mem. And she said, Mikol eitz hagan ahol nocha. So he said, because when she speaks, or he begins to speak with her with the letter mem, which he says refers to bina. So when she answered back to the nachash, she saw there's already a flaw in what she's saying, what she's thinking, shehi bebina. Shabbat, that in Bina, he says, is the secret of the letter Mem. Shehu Pesuchel the small. Remember that we saw this idea as a mem stuma, and then the mem petucha actually is opened on the left side as an opening. Now, again, I didn't really understand how the mem itself, other than this, that the mem is like bina in the sense that bina is ima, and ima has a womb. And that womb opens up, and it allows for Leda, for giving birth to Zeranpin. Over here, he's saying that the mem, shehu pesuchel, the small, the tzad gevurach v'chadin, because it's opening, when it opens on the left side. So the chen miyad nata lanachash os mem. So immediately the nachash took the letter mem. V'yaser rabesel al zroach hasmolis, and he put it on his left arm. Shebegavur, the left arm. Now I think he means here maybe the left arm of the maskala of Zeranpin. He made everything flow down the left. Shebegavur, which represents gavura. The hashpia sham hadinim, in order to let the dinim flow. He waited al osius vav and taf. So what does that mean? He waited for these two letters to come around, l'shmoa bepicha, to hear from her mouth. What does that mean? She waited until she would sin with speech, because vav represents teferes, so therefore she would, when she spoke, and she said what she said, he was able to draw the vav and place that together, because vav represents teferes, and therefore she's joining the middle line to the left line. And she sits, and then she sinned with the deed. Kadesh yifgam os taf. Taf means what? He says taf is the last letter of the alphabet, the aleph base. Taf also is misper cotton. It's the number 4, which is the final hey of the yud-kei vav-kei. So I think that's what he must mean, that the taf represents malchus. Kedei sirif milos mavis, and now you have the word mavis, which means death. Nachon, the proper death, before the lifnechem ratzon l'loma kadesh to taskim kol ha'anhaga ha'alyona l'hanisham, and that he would get all of the mavis. Now he says represents bina, it represents their anpen, and it represents malchus. That all of this she would agree. In other words, all of those forces of would come down and all work together lahanisham, in order to punish Adam and Chava. Let's go over here to the next one. So he says like the v'chein ma asach samach mem hiskil the petoch b'devarav. He started the patosa. He started the zezusah with words. Ad dechsev v'teireh ha'isha b'tayim v'chasagi v'takif. That she saw something. B'tam gadol v'chazak. She saw something. V'teireh, to see. Ki yesh al milos v'teireh ha'isha, that in these two words, tam munach pazer ha'ne'emer b'chozak. Now I don't really know what these sounds sound. These are tamim. So I know you know, but I don't know exactly what they do. But ha'ne'emer b'chozak, but these are sounds that are said strongly. Malamed sheparchu ha'osius vav and tav shel these two letters, vatira, which refers to seeing something she saw with her eyes, that those two letters are there. V'salkul v'ala l'hischaber im os mem, and they went up and they joined together with this letter mem, lihios sirif mavis, in order to be able to make the combination, which makes the words mavis. But with all this, she had to sin 4 times. The punishment actually took 4 times, and he enumerated them previously. Said if the 7 midos, which refers to Zeranpin, and Malchus, they would all agree that the left line would dominate. But there's still in other areas which are not the left line, which is Chesed, which is the right line, and Tiferes, the middle line, Malchus, which is the bottom. V'chein v'os mem choise oila v'yeredis. So therefore the mem goes up, goes down. V'lo choise v'schaveres imahem involvotov. And so therefore it didn't really join together with them. Not sure where he's going with this. So let's see what we're doing here. So he says, are we out of time? We're out of time. Oh, we ran out of time. Okay, well that's the shear here, and we're still in a mystery of what the Matok B'Devash is going with this Pirish, but to try to understand the deep relationship that ultimately delivers us into Din. This is Baruch Fleischman. This is the Tikkun Elevator Kollel.